Hey there, and welcome to Geopolitics 411. We're looking at the man that is Trump, who has decided to boycott the G20 meeting in South Africa. So he says it is a total disgrace that South Africa is hosting the G20 meeting while persecuting the white people. Now, President Trump, again, which white people are being persecuted in South Africa? Since when? You paraded the South African president with videos and played videos that were not real, and everyone said it was not true. They even showed you the video evidence, and you still believe to this date, in November 2025, that whites are being killed in South Africa. I think you need to do better as a president. So Donald Trump confirmed that the US boycotted the G20 meeting in South Africa over persecutions of white people. And these claims are claims that have been discredited, and there's even evidence. He even tried to give white South Africa, like wanting to receive them in the US. But the number of people going, minimal, because they're okay in South Africa. They're even doing videos saying, we're okay here in South Africa. But somehow Trump in the US feels the whites are not safe in South Africa. It is so sad to have that President Trump saying that it is a total disgrace that South Africa is hosting the meeting. However, I like that South Africa is standing for itself. Even the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he met the US president, he stood up for South Africa. Now, the South Africa's foreign ministry described the decision by White House of not attending the meeting as regrettable, and the spokesperson for the foreign ministry, Crispin Phiri, stated that the success of the summit will not rest on one member state. I think there is more than meets the eye in this meeting, and I feel like the US feels they're losing their grip across the world, and so they're trying to send a message even to other nations, because G20 has all the, has countries of the West, it has China, it has Russia, it has France, and all these EU member states, African Union, of course, it's represented. But you see, his attempt to show power and how powerful the US is to try and keep the US from the G20. But South Africa says one country out of the rest will not keep the rest or the meeting not going. And also it's interesting to imagine that this meeting, the next G20, is being held in the United States. So him foregoing this and yet hosting the next one, you wonder how the resolutions, whatever they discussed now, how is it going to be discussed in the next meeting? And he was absent. The US is not represented because the Vice President, J.D. Vance, was actually supposed to be attending. And now Trump said he's not going to attend because it's in South Africa and there's, the whole killing of white people happening, which is, again, untrue. So none of South Africa's political parties actually, if it was true, we would have political parties speak out, like the DA and the Afrikaners. Those are political parties that would come out and say, actually, the white people are being targeted. But none of South Africa's, any political parties claim that there's a genocide in South Africa, including this predominantly white members party. So such a thing it's a claim that I feel like Trump, being the world leader, believes he can throw any statements and they will survive, but people are saying no. So Crispin, who's the foreign affairs spokesperson, also added that President Trump is orchestrating an imagined crisis, which personally I believe is true, and that is what even South Africans have been saying. So he's using the painful history of South Africa's colonial past to try and revive wounds that South Africans have worked hard to get through and to get over. I mean, if it's a question of crime, that's a different thing, but not saying that there's a genocide of white people targeted. That is not true. Crispin also confirmed that there's absolutely no evidence of white persecution in South Africa, citing that we will move on without the United States, and moving on, they have actually done. There's also, critics argued that Trump is actually targeting the minerals in South Africa, and he wants to make South Africa feel left out in so many things, even by the issue of wanting to slap them with tariffs a few months ago, so that they feel the pain and bow down and meet the needs of trade as US will dictate. However, I think South Africans and Africans in general we are open to seeing what is happening in the world, and they are saying no. So Afrikaners, who descended from, is a party that is made up of people who actually descended from the Dutch settlers and also the French and German immigrants. He was saying that they are being killed and slaughtered, and their land and farms are being illegally confiscated. This is what Trump actually wrote on his Truth Social, which is what he was stating, that it is a total disgrace for the G20 to be held in a country that this is happening. And he added that no US official government will attend as long as these human rights abuses continue. On the other hand, South Africa's government said the claims of white genocide are discredited and dismissed and clearly imagined, and that will not stop it, because even the courts in February said this is untrue. So Trump had earlier said that South Africa should not be in the G20 at all, like totally he wants them cut off. And it's very interesting because officially it's just South Africa, a country in Africa. It's the only country that is a member. Well, there's the whole representation of the African Union, which is members across Africa, but as a country, it's just South Africa. And now he wants to kick them out. Makes you question what Trump wants for Africa, or if you flip the coin, what do we want as Africa for our continent? Very good questions and food for thought for us. So that's how J.D. Vance didn't end up coming. And of course, he had said either way, if it was going to happen, he was not going to be there himself, but he was going to send a representative. So every year, the G20 member states host the 20 members, sets the agenda for the summit, with the US, of course, taking turn after South Africa. And since returning to office, President Trump has really targeted South Africa, accusing them of, discrimination, hitting them with tariffs and all these things. But at least President Cyril has tried to stand up for South Africa, which is a good thing. Not arguably, not 100%, but somewhere. So it's interesting that the Trump administration even has given the Afrikaners refuge status on the basis of the discredited genocide claims. But I mean, the number of refugees who are willing to be admitted, it's so low that for them, they say it's not a priority, and that South African government has pointed there's a limited uptake because they feel they're okay in South Africa. G20 was founded in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis. Of course, the nations involved have more than 85% of the world's wealth, and its aim was to restore economic stability. The first leaders of the summit was held in 2008 in response to the year's global financial turmoil to promote international cooperation. And now the leaders get together each year along with representatives of the European Union and African Union. And all they talk about is the world's economies, the issues the countries are facing. And of course, President Trump always wanting to take the lead in such, because he believes he's the man of the world. And, America is the democracy to watch. Anyway, let's watch how this goes. I don't know if this hit against South Africa will come to an end or will keep going. But the truth is, the US is interested in getting minerals from South Africa. At maybe that's their biggest interest, because they even cut funding for HIV/AIDS programs and all that. But still, you can see he's very, he's still at South Africa. Anyway, tell us what you think in the comment section. We'll catch you on the next episode.